What's up? Welcome back to Nowstalgia. Dave here with a review of Monarch Legacy of Monsters, the new kaiju sci-fi series in Legendary's MonsterVerse, our first entry in the MonsterVerse on TV, and of course, first entry in the MonsterVerse at all since 2021's Godzilla vs. Kong, one of the big hits of the pandemic box office. We know that the MonsterVerse will be continuing after the show next year with Godzilla x Kong, The New Empire in April 2024. And then independent of the MonsterVerse, Godzilla Plus One, a new Godzilla live-action film from Japan, will also be releasing in just a few weeks. So a lot of Godzilla stuff to enjoy right about now. And I have to say, Monarch Legacy of Monsters really exceeded my expectations. This very much feels right at home in that MonsterVerse world that we've experienced over the course of 3 films to this point. And I think the way the series is weaving itself into the existing continuity we know from the past MonsterVerse films. There are 4 of those. Of course, Godzilla 2013, Kong Skull Island in 2017, Godzilla King of Monsters 2019, and of course, Godzilla vs. Kong. Those past 4 movies. The show is weaving in to what we know about those stories, I think pretty well, pretty compellingly, giving with new characters and returning characters from the movies as well. And also, thankfully, due to Apple's involvement, this show has a big budget. The CG looks great. And Monarch Legacy of Monsters is giving us kaiju. It's giving us Mutos. It's giving us these monsters. We haven't seen Godzilla yet, apart from some pretty compelling flashbacks to the San Francisco Golden Gate attack from Godzilla 2014. We haven't seen any new Godzilla footage yet, though. But the CGI we have seen, I think it looks strong. These budgets look good. These locations look good. And I'm certainly in. I'm certainly down. I'm a fan of these movies in general, but I think this show will very much feel additive and not so much just kind of extraneous, in terms of like franchise bulking up and beefing out. Of course, prequels and TV shows are all the rage, but this will actually feel like, I think, a pretty fun entry. I'm definitely in. And the way it's structured, I think, is pretty important because you have 2 timelines here. One is set not quite in the present day, but set in 2015 Japan, in Tokyo, and features new characters played by Anna Sawai, Kiersey Clemens, and Anna Sawai's character's previously unknown half-brother played by Ren Watabe. And I think that time is notable because Tokyo 2015, that's taking place in the MonsterVerse post Godzilla 2014, but before Godzilla King of Monsters, when shit hit the fan, if you remember what happened in that movie. So like the world is not completely subsumed by the existence of kaiju just yet. So I think it's an interesting place in like the story continuity to put ourselves. And the other timeline is set in the past, primarily in the 50s, in the Philippines, and as well as Kazakhstan, all throughout, really. We jump around in a lot of locations, a lot of time. We get a lot of those title cards, but that basically is taking us through the founding, the creation of the Monarch organization, which was about the study and identification of these unidentified monsters, unidentified creatures. Monarch takes on a bigger and bigger role and eventually becomes a lot more public facing as these movies in the MonsterVerse progress. But because we're not super far advanced in terms of the timeline, or before the most recent movies, it makes sense to have more of an origin-y type vibe. So I'm super down with how they're setting up the continuity. And I think the flashback stuff is pretty cool. And in general, these 2 timelines actually feel in direct service to each other because you have this new character, this army figure and founding Monarch member, Shaw, played in dual role by both Kurt and Wyatt Russell. Having father and son play the same character, it's awesome. They have a very striking visual resemblance, of course, and it's excuse to have 2 great actors. Like I think it's pretty cool. So having our new present day cast, Sawai, Clemens, and Watabe, having them interact with Kurt Russell. Then meanwhile, we spend time with Wyatt Russell and learn about Shaw's past exploits decades in the past. It's pretty fun, So I'm certainly intrigued. And I think we've gotten enough monster juice so far, primarily at the end of the episodes. There's a pretty shocking like death involving some monsters at the end of the first episode, and I think a really cool like kind of like dragon reveal at the end of the second one. We know Godzilla's coming. I'm sure we'll encounter some other more famous monsters as well in the lead up, so we'll see. But one of the other characters that we see in the past timeline, played by Anders Holm, we actually realize is a young Bill Randa. And Randa, who is, I didn't like really remember this, but Bill Randa is of course John Goodman's character in Kong Skull Island. So kind of fun way to like retcon stuff and fill in the story. And across the timelines, like there's this like mysterious, like there's bits of evidence and this like Monarch bag that's come from Skull Island from Randa. It's now back in the present day. The plot, like core details, I'm not super concerned about, but like I just feel pretty compelled by like the structure of it, and it feels like it's really well fleshed out as a series and as a franchise entry into a franchise that had previously been movies only, And in hindsight, we know how poorly things can go when you expand the TV. Look no farther than, of course, the MCU on Disney Plus, as I think a lot of people know by now. But yeah, I'm feeling pretty good about this. I think the CG has looked really strong, and I'm just kind of down. I like Anna Sawai. I think she's very quickly become a huge force in TV between Pachinko and Monarch and the forthcoming Shogun on FX. She's becoming quite the presence. And of course, Kiersey Clemens, I think we know. And Watabi, I was unfamiliar with, but he seems pretty cool thus far. Also, having just recently gone to Japan, it's fun to see scenes and episodes take place in Tokyo because I just kind of recognize architecture and recognize locations now. So I personally am enjoying that. But yeah, I'm down with this. I'm pretty with it, and now I'm curious. Regardless of how Monarch goes, I'm expecting its present day timeline to not like rapidly advance multiple years in this first season, but there's a potential now for Monarch Legacy of Monsters. Would it get a season 2? That season 2 could take place years in the future, post this new Godzilla Kong New Empire movie we get in 2024. So if they want, they can kind of push forward several years in the future and keep some of these characters around if they want. And we'll see. I'm curious if it gets that far. Obviously, it's an expensive show to make, but I'm into it. Let me know, how are you feeling about Monarch Legacy of Monsters? Are you still invested in the MonsterVerse like me? Let me know. And for more Godzilla stuff, I'll be talking about Godzilla Plus One in just a few weeks when that comes out, as well as more TV reviews, movie reviews. Subscribe, and I'll see you next time.